What's up, everybody? This is video 2 of the outbound scripting and strategy of how to generate business outbound right now. Video 1 was interrupted because I needed to go get my coffee. And so I took a 5-minute intermission. Now I'm ready to go back into it, but check out video number 1. The link will be below this video, and it sets you up with how to understand a process and a system to implement into your outbound efforts that's going to help you increase the conversion rate of anyone you engage with, anyone you contact, right? And that's how you feed your system. You want to talk about, you want to get on baller status. You want to get on that level that just, you know what I mean? Like where you're part of the crowd in your monthly rallies and you constantly are saying like, damn, how the hell do they do it? Like so much so that the only real way that you're able to justify it is to believe that they get special leads or they get special treatment. And that's just some shit that fucks with us, right? This is what goes in our head. We think that, oh, because they're connected. Bullshit. And I proved that wrong every place that I've ever started because I've quickly gained success very fast. I was able to grow to the top of that chart by doing certain things. And it's really, what's the irony of it is, it was really coming from a place of laziness. Like I didn't want to go through all the bullshit just to get the same results, if not better. So in the process of being lazy, I went hyper focused and went opposite of lazy. Like my hustle gears just went 110, and it was just based on figuring out the formula of how to master the process, right? So I gave homage to the process. Understand that everything successful has a process. Visit video number 1. In video number 2 though, we're going to talk about another pillar that's important to understand and really master when you're generating sales from outbounds, because this is a completely different beast. It's a completely different animal from dealing with something that's inbound, because those inbound leads, they're already at the game. They know what's up. They're shopping, right? They're in the process of, or possibly even window shopping in some cases. But even if a person is window shopping, if you have the right words, if you are prepared and you got the right mindset, you could turn that shopper into a buyer. You could turn that window in, you know what I mean, that window shopper inquiry, like just seeing what's available, you could turn them into a client. And it's going to be figuring out these pillars. Now the next pillar has to do with mindset. And so you might have heard that saying a few times, like, hey, smile and dial, right? Or you might even see some people on your floor, like they'll stand up and they'll get moving and they'll start talking loud. It's because they're getting in the mindset. They're changing their state of mind. And why it's important to change your state of mind is, if you've been to the gym, one of the reasons why I have to have music on is because it changes my state. And so sometimes the song that I'm playing, it would be on completely different wavelengths, right? So one day I might have alternative rock, and then the next day I might have nothing but just straight hip hop, and then the next day I'll have just old gangster rap, right? And then the next day it's just R&B, and then reggae. So something that changes your state. And what you're looking for, the effect that you're looking for, is to put you in a mode where your memory brings you back to a specific time in your life where you felt so hungry. And so if you've ever felt yourself like, oh man, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna get it to where you're at your most confident level, it may not be right then and there, and that's why it's important to change your state. But that's the whole goal, is to change your state of mind so that you are super focused, you're on point, you're sharp. You know, the reason why we drink coffee and why a lot of us like caffeine is because it changes our state from going from lazy to nonchalant to eager beaver status. And so that's important to do, because what's going to happen is that we will go into a situation that we are going to be uncomfortable. And if you're not mentally ready, you're going to pay attention to the reason why you're uncomfortable rather than the reason why that person should buy from you. You see things like, oh man, I don't want to mess up, or oh man, what if they don't like this, or it sounds like they're not going to like this rate, it sounds like it's going to be tough. We listen to ourselves more when we're not in the right state. We listen to ourselves more. We believe that there's no way to make that sale, and when we affirm it, it's called an affirmation. When we affirm that they're not going to buy, we convince ourselves they're not going to buy. As a matter of fact, our tonality changes, our demeanor changes, even our words start to change, right? And it's weird, but this is just happening. And so if we understand the state of mind and we understand the pockets, which I outlined in video 1, is that there are different pockets of products and niches and answers and solutions, right? Like at the end of the day, you cannot make a sale. You cannot profit from a sale until it actually becomes a sale. And so in our industry, it's a little bit different. We believe, from the very beginning, a sale is a lock. Well, it's not really sold yet. You still got to journey with that bitch, right? So you have, and I'm not talking about the prospect being a bitch. I'm talking about that fucking file, right? So when you get that file, unless you set the right expectations, unless you have the right process, you're going to have to babysit that file. And so at the end of the month, like right now is the 28th, this is the last day of the month of February 2018. If right now you're paranoid, like you're looking up every single file because you got to hit that tier and you're 1 unit away from that tier, you put yourself there. The fuck are you worried about being 1 unit away? You know what I mean? Like you allowed that to happen. Now I get it. The market's a little bit different. Things are tough. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you that one. But at the end of the day, it should have been so automated where every single day you're feeding that machine and that machine just constantly moves. It's always going to be at a specific number because you hold yourself to a process. You have a particular structure. You are constantly in the state. And sometimes you need to get in the state in the morning. That's probably why you bump me through your speakers on the way into work, is to change your state. You see a lot of people in traffic. Go ahead, look around. Look at that car. Look at that dude next to you. These people are not in that state, but you are. And so now what do? So when you get into this situation, when you're out of control, you're not in control, right? You believe you're not in control because you're telling yourself, oh man, I don't want to mess up. What if I say the wrong thing? This person's not going to buy. And you go through and you put yourself in that situation. You're not going to be able to break past anything that happens in the rest of that conversation because you've already affirmed to you that that's not going to happen. So stay away from that. Mindset is important. You have to look at every single engagement instead of a possibility of failure as an opportunity to farm a relationship. The way you're going to win in this game, what I was talking about earlier, stats, like you want to get on baller status, is that you create an automated engine. We have the technology, we have the resources, the tools that enable us to create a system, a systematic engine that feeds your funded pipeline. Right? Because our focus sometimes are just in the wrong areas, and it's not you. It could be your manager, it could be your team, it could be the focus of that week. And so sometimes when we take our attention, we focus on this one little area, like let's say this video topic is just about outbounds, right? And we just focus on outbounds. Sometimes we forget to see it for the entire picture. So sometimes it may not just necessarily be outbounds. You could be a guru on the phone. You could sound, you could sound smoother than Michael Jackson. Shit, you just got it. But does that mean that now you're a strong closer? It does not, because there are other pockets, just like there are other pillars that make this game important. Now, another pillar is going to be strategy, meaning that, in the very first video I was outlining, like, you can't just go blind into it. Like, you have to have a strategy. So pay attention to your licensing, right? Where are you heavily licensed? Where look at your last 6 months of funded loans, and what state are you noticing you're funding most loans in? This is if you're in a call center environment. And if you're noticing that you're getting a lot of business in Florida, fuck, man, those people like you. Something about you, they like you. You're on their wavelength. So maximize the opportunity of Florida. And so if my work hours, and I'm in California and they're 3 hours behind me, I'm going to structure my work hours to ensure that I'm at the right time, at the right place at the right time. And sometimes that right place is 2:30 your time, if you're Pacific time, right? And the reason why 2:30 is an important time for you is because it's 5:30 in the East Coast, and this is when people are getting home. This is when people can give you their undivided attention, and you can control them in a way where you have them in front of a computer. You can tell them to grab a mortgage statement. You can build the excitement without the distraction of, oh man, I got a 1 o'clock meeting, or oh man, I got an email, an appointment, a deadline, a fucking whatever, something that's pulling your prospect away. Because when they can't focus on you and you can't connect and sync with that prospect to get them on that emotional state as to why they need to buy right now, then you're only opening up yourself to put yourself in a position where you're gonna get let down. And that's why at the end of the month you're like, damn man, I'm 1 unit away from hitting that 1 tier. Man, fuck that tier, bro. Like, what you got to worry about is the system that fucking feeds the tier. The tier should just be a byproduct of you being fucking amazing at what you do, right? So it shouldn't be the fucking, you know what I mean? That So another thing, and the reason why mindset is important, is because every month we're measured by someone, right? And typically, a lot of us will allow our manager to measure us, meaning that the quota, the minimum quota on your floor right now, let's just use a number of 8. Let's just say the minimum is 8. And so now you know the minimum quota, and you'll see it and you'll think, okay, well, that's the goal, is 8. The problem with that is when you just aim for 8, for whatever reason, some shit always happens where you're falling below that, and this puts you already at a disadvantage. And so my solution here is that when you know the quota, never mind the quota, you have 2 game cards, right? You got a game card of your company, of what average the floor needs to meet. Your manager might even have his own game card, say, hey, you need to do 10 this month, or whatever the game card is, but you have your own game card. You are the one that really has control of it. So don't use those numbers as a reason as to why to aim for it. Figure out what's going to make you happy, what's going to bring you up, what's going to get you to the next level, what's going to get your family to that next level. And so maybe that number to get your family to the next level was 15, or let's just say 20, right? I'll even do you one solid, and we'll just aim for a number that probably is beyond what you're normal or what you're used to doing. But that 20 is easier if you break it down on a daily level. And so that's why in video number 1, I was outlining, like, my team goes for a dub, is because every single day there should be 2 transactions. And so over the course of time, even if they didn't work a weekend, that's 40 points. And that means that's 40 times that we made a transaction of either locking or elevating a loan. And that daily activity, that daily regimen will put you at a funding average of 15 to 20, just naturally, because it's just a byproduct. Now, of course, there's other, details that come in between, like knowing your products and knowing your paths, right? So that's always important. You got to pay attention to that. And of course, besides timing and strategy, knowing like what time they're going to be available, what time it is on that side of the country. If that's your hot pocket might be Washington or something that's within your time zone, or you might be in the East Coast and East Coast is your thing, or that's your only thing because you got one license. And if you got one license, man, I mean, there's just so many opportunities that you can originate deals elsewhere. Like you don't need to stick to your closest pocket. But if you are one of those loan officers who do originations from like a personal level, like you're out there hustling, like you're walking the street, you're knocking door to door, you're in person. These are called outside loan agents, and where I'm from, well, you might have another fancier name, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing. It's just you're fostering relationships in a different way. So instead of fostering relationships with homeowners, you need to foster your relationship with resources that can connect you with homeowners. And so, for example, if your end game was a funded loan, then you got to figure out, okay, well, what's the hottest loans that are funding right now? As an outside loan agent, those are likely purchase loans. And so, okay, well, who's going to put me in the way of purchase loans? Realtors are. Well, who's going to put me in the way of realtors are? Brokers are. Who's going to put me in the midst of brokers? Well, open houses are. You know what I mean? So you got to reverse engineer it and just kind of work your way up. But nonetheless, it is a system. There's a system to get to that next level. And that's why you hear me referencing video games, or, you hear me referencing different things that all along are just its own system. And so I hope to share that with you, give you the tools that you need, and the wording that you need, and the scripting you need, the mentality that you need to create a system that just becomes an engine that produces the activity and the actions and the results that get you the commission. Don't look at it as a sale. But going back to the last point, if you needed to aim for 20 for that month because that's your number, then do just that. You're going to get KPI reports. You're going to get shout outs from teams that will show you agents that had a good day that day, but don't let that fret you. Like, you got to rewind the clock. So if you miss your 2 points for that day, then you know that you got 4 more days to get it, right? Like you got another shot the next day, because some days you're not going to score, some days you're going to score 1, but then there are days that you score as long as you keep your system tight. There's days you're going to score 5. There's days you're going to score 6, and you're just going to naturally offset. But when you go into the month every day thinking you got to hit 8, then your actions are naturally going to be in line with just hitting 8. If you go in every day knowing that you need to hit a number of 20, and to do that, there's a plan and system, and you got to do 2 a day, then you are prepared. Your actions are going to be in line to put you at that number. That's just it. That's just the fucking science of it all, right? But now the question is, well, okay, so now I got the system, D. I'm putting it in place. Now I'm using what you're saying. I'm making my 10 connections, but what these people are telling me is that they're just not interested. They're just not in the market. They just don't want to talk to me. Now what do I say? Now what do I do? And if you want to know the answer to that, stick around. If this is your first time watching Sales Remastered, I invite you to hit the subscribe button, hit that bell, so that way you're notified of video number 3 on this outbound structure and scripting and strategy. I don't even know the title of it yet. And when you get notified of video number 3, what you're going to find in there is the wording, is the 2 most important pieces of generating outbound sales. And I'll see you there. Bye.